Today's video, we're going to talk about what is Google Ad Rank. Most experts do not understand what this actually is. It's way more complicated than people think it is. Of these so-called experts on YouTube talking about ad rank, they have no freaking clue what the hell they're talking about. And you can't blame them because they maybe manage a couple campaigns or a few, but they're just mainly trying to make a living off of YouTube and selling courses or whatever. They don't spend 40 hours a week doing Google Ads strategy and have to look after dozens of accounts and get strategy and get guaranteed results like our firm offers. So they don't really pay attention to all the micro intricacies of ad rank. I'm going to explain what those are on today's video so you really understand what you're dealing with and why it takes so long to get results with Google Ads nowadays. Because really what you are coming to the table with, which is money, is 20% of the equation as to what you're making with your account nowadays. The other 80% is your actions and the quality of an advertiser you are, your ads, your landing pages, how good you are, how consistent you are, how knowledgeable you are as a strategist and person who is strategizing your ads. You have to understand how Google Ads' system works nowadays if you expect to make money, or be like the other 90% of people who try it and fail because they thought it was easy and they didn't have to know anything, and they, more than anything, expect it to work a certain way. They want it to work a certain way, and it doesn't work that way. So either get with the program of how Google Ads works now or you fail. Ultimately, everybody knows about Google Ads, so you have to know more to actually make it work. Google doesn't set everything up so that you can make money just by barely trying anymore. They want to set it up so a few people make a lot of money and everybody else makes little to nothing. And that's how it goes nowadays. Ad rank is the number one most important thing you have to know in order to be on that top of that pile, so to say. So I'll go through what makes up ad rank and then how do you actually please the algorithm so you actually have the highest ad rank in your niche. Because when you do that, you will always make a pile of money, millions of dollars a year in your business, if the market's that big, that is. So it's not a matter of if you can do it, it's just a matter of putting the work in, because I'm going to give you the exact advice that you need to be able to do it. So before I get into the content though, if you do not know who I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we get them a certain minimum lift in their profitability upfront, and then once we get you the minimum profit lift, we'll start charging our management fees then. We're the only agency out there that offers any kind of similar guarantee, which should tell you something about the quality of information you're receiving on this channel. With that said, getting into the content now. Ad rank primarily is made up of three overall parts here, and this isn't listed anywhere in Google's. Any other so-called influencer has mentioned this the way that I'm mentioning it, but this is what I've noticed after managing hundreds of accounts and manage no less than a few dozen Google Ads accounts at any given time, specifically focusing on the strategy. There is your past advertiser performance, meaning the account's performance cumulatively as a whole, all the ads you've ever ran, all the campaigns you ever ran, how they did. And similar to that, how you are as a customer to them, to Google, which I'll talk about the details of this in a minute. Then you also have past performance of your campaigns. When I say past performance with a certain type of prospect, how well do you do advertising to people who search for brown socks that are white Americans that are male, 35 years old, and have recently made 3 searches for brown socks in the recent past? How well do you perform for that profile of user versus somebody else that you're advertising against that also wants to advertise to that same profile or type of user? You're rank stacked against your competition, and it's done at an individual level like this. Advertising on a keyword is not advertising on a keyword anymore. They look at individual users who search for keywords and how you perform in each individual circumstance. Then you've got also your bid. 40% of how much you make on Google Ads is, and therefore ad rank, because the higher your ad rank, the more you're going to make, is based upon the advertiser performance, your view as an overall advertiser to Google, what's your history like been with Google overall. 40% of what you make is down to performance of how your ads perform specifically for their users on an overall basis, and 20% is down to what you're willing and able to bid. Of course, if you're able to bid more than your competition, you'll make more. But just coming to the table and having the most money, it doesn't even come close to making you the most, to assuring you can make money with your stuff anymore. You could have a great product or service, but if you don't know how to set up your ads correctly, you're still not going to make any money because Google set it up that way nowadays. And they actually got away from letting people with the most money just bid their way to the top because Google's trying to train their users to click on ads more. They've actually, there's a term called shitification in the online software website marketing world, where basically the process of monetizing an app is you first make the app good, then you start attracting advertisers, and then eventually you make the app shittier for the users so that they want to click on ads more. This goes on pretty much across the board everywhere because venture capital firms want to get a return on investment on what they got at some point, and that's just how it rolls. When it comes to Google Ads, it's the same thing. Essentially, what Google's doing right now, because they've got a mature platform, they're trying to squeeze out every dollar of value out of it. They are actively making the organic search results worse on an ongoing basis on purpose, not so much that nobody ever uses Google anymore, but at the same time making up for it by making the ads better. It's smart. They make the organic shittier at the same rate the ads are getting better in terms of usefulness, then people will not abandon the platform. So they can't just make the organic results ridiculously shitty and just have the ads there when the ads are only so good. They have to be able to shift consumer behavior from clicking on the organic results to the ads. And they have to do that by using algorithms to figure out how the ads could be more relevant to their users, and at the same time making the organic results less relevant to their users. This has been going on for a couple of years at least now. And they've been doing it, and the shift has been ongoing. And it's working very well for them. The ads keep getting better and better and better. More people are clicking on them as a whole, and less people are clicking the organic results as a whole. That is why Google's come out with this ad rank system and started talking about it. They actually want you, the advertiser, to know what the game is, which is you have to get a high ad rank. And that ad rank determines how much your money you're going to make from your ads. And it's not just about buying an ad spot at the top of Google anymore for your keywords. It's completely changed. And if you're going to make money, you got to help them make the ads more relevant to their users, which is their overall goal, to get more people to click on ads in the future. And so therefore they can make more out of the ad space in the future because they've trained all their users to click on ads. And you either help them towards that goal or they're going to push you to the side. You're going to be an afterthought, you're going to go away, you're going to die. Also, this is why it takes months or years for ads to truly become profitable as well. Ultimately, when you're just starting out as an advertiser, Google doesn't know anything about you. So the 40% that makes up, your history, you don't have any. Ad performance to show how your ad and landing page performs for individual users. So all you got is a high bid that you can come in on. Well, you can only bid so high before the ads are unprofitable. You can't pay $5,000 a click and make money. Your ads are typically not profitable for a while, months and sometimes years up front to build a history with Google so that you can earn a high ad rank to where you can start making money. You do it because even if you had to spend 12 months at the beginning running your ads at a loss to build up your ad rank, it would be worth it because you're going to run your ads probably for the next 10 years. And the money you make every month on year 9 is going to offset everything you wasted on year 1 to build up the minimum the history in your account to get a certain ad rank. And the reason for that is because, when you start out, your ads are not profitable typically. If you have a really good offer that's way better than the competition in terms of what you're selling, it'll be profitable sooner. It can happen in 2 weeks or 18 months, depending on how good your offer is, so to say, compared to the competition in your market. Profitability gets better and better and better. At some point, you hit profitability after you're making enough money to offset all your expenses, and then it just keeps getting more and more and more and more profitable on an ongoing basis. The more data you've acquired, so Google can get a better read on you as an advertiser, assuming you're doing the things to show them you're a good advertiser and you have value in the market. If you're going to show up with shitty ads, shitty landing pages, they have no use for you anymore. They want something that's better, that's there, and that is absolutely your freaking goal in the beginning, is to be better than them, so that if you are going to invest in getting some data, at the end of it, you're going to earn it all back. Otherwise, you've wasted all your time and money. With money in your pocket and spend 15 minutes setting up your ads, it's not going to cut it anymore in a competitive market. As it comes to ad rank, this part of the algorithm that determines ad rank by looking at you as an advertiser as a whole, the individual components that make up for this, I'll go through the list here. Number one is how long you've been advertising. We've had situations where we've sold, for instance, printer toner. We've been selling it for 10 years already. We took the same exact ads, landing pages, all of it, copy pasted it to a new account, and we were getting 5% or less of the profitable results that we were with the old account because we have no history with Google. And that's how much of a difference this makes. The other factor in terms of this part of the algorithm having to do with advertiser performance is consistency. Recent change history. Have you recently made a bunch of changes in your account, which their system does not like change because the whole goal is to figure out which ads should show for what person and what times so that the overall ads are as good as possible for their users. And when you're constantly making changes, they don't know where you should be oriented at in the grand scheme of things of all the search results. So they're apt to just yank you out of your spots where you were before and have to go back into learning mode to relearn where you should be situated. So if you've made changes recently, that's going to affect their view of you as an advertiser. Therefore, on the flip side, the less you change, the more serious of an advertiser they're going to think you are, or should I say more sure they're going to be about showing your stuff to their users because they don't want to make a bad assumption about where you should be showing people, get a bad experience, and then they don't click on ads in the future. So they're apt to test things slowly and then only put you in certain slots there when they know for sure you're better than the competition or at least as good as the leading competition in your space. And if you make changes, they don't know that anymore, so you're going to be ripped out of those spots. Pausing and unpausing history. Do you actually have times where you pause the ads? Are you one of those companies who on Thanksgiving, because you don't have anybody answering the phones, you shut off your ads to save money? That's a major, 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 major mistake to do that because the Google system your ad rank's going to take a hit doing that. They do not like change like I just mentioned. They want to be able to rely that your ads are going to be running day in and day out for years. And in their competitive market, at least, they got other people to pick from. Why are they not going to run the guy's ads that they know are going to, maybe you're here today, maybe you aren't, we don't know. The algorithms only work well when they have a consistent data stream to look at. And when you're shutting your ads off and on and all the time, they don't know what to predict and expect. Therefore, they would rather go with the guy that they can predict and expect. Then you also got billing history. Is your card getting denied all the time? Your ads are getting shut off and turn on and turn off all the time because you're not paying your bill. Or even, as we've noticed, the card gets denied and before your ad gets shut off, you add a new card, but that's screwed up. You'll actually get a better ad rank if you have a backup card, which is why they always tell you that in the notifications. Add a backup card to your account. People don't like to do it. If you're serious about making money with your ads and complain that you're not getting the results you want until you've added a damn backup card to your account or payment source. So that if one fails, the other one can kick in. Because at some point, the card's not going to work. Your bank's going to deny it. And you need to have that backup ready to go. And that's what it's for. So there's that. Then there's CTR, niche benchmarking. So Google's going to look at all the ads in your account and the click-through rate that all the ads got and compare it to the entire other competitors you're up against that are advertising to the same audience of people, whether it be on the display network, YouTube, whatever. And they're going to see what your other competitors' accounts CTR is as a whole, benchmark you against them. And if you are higher than them overall, then you're going to be treated like better than the other guys, not only just overall right now, but on any new campaigns you launch, they're going to assume you're better because your overall accounts produce better than your competition. Ultimately, and that's why it's dumb to go and try, maybe this will work. Let's try this. Let's try this. Let's try this. And do all these weird tests that, you frankly don't have to do that. Ask a true ad expert what works and what's likely to work and all this before making any kind of test. You don't have to randomly try shit. But when you're randomly trying shit and a bunch of your tests fail, that brings down the overall CTR of your account, potentially. And then your overall ad rank goes down. Why not test stuff that you're 90% sure will work because you've talked to somebody who's ran it, that particular strategy 27 other times and already knows that it'll work, and you're paying the money to tell you if it works in advance so you don't affect your ad rank. You should. I'm telling you, you should. A lot of people don't like paying people to help them. They put all the value and money into the ad spend itself, but then very little, or maybe 5% of what they're spending into the person telling them what's likely to work, which is okay if you spend 50 grand a month, but not when you spend 5 grand a month, by the way, because it's not enough to hire an actual true expert to work on your stuff that would actually know if it works, not instead of them also just guessing if it works. And then ultimately, you don't have to have the ad rank low because you're trying stuff that you know basically will work. Then you also got the same thing but for conversion rate. You're going to get your conversion rate overall in your account benchmarked against all your competitors' conversion rates as a whole. And if you got that high as well, they're going to treat you like gold if you're way above everybody else's average conversion rate. Because click-through rate and conversion rate as a whole dictate whether you're helping Google get to the end goal of making the overall ad space better for their users or not. If users got to find what they want quickly, they click the ad. Get to the landing page and convert, they got what they wanted. Those two things tell them more than anything whether or not you should be in the search results or not. Okay? So that's the part of the algorithm that deals with you as an advertiser as a whole, basically. Then you got to the part of the algorithm that deals with you and how your ads perform on an individual user level, which is going to be predicated on two overall things: demographics. All the time at our firm, we have people that we work with and they say, Corey, I just Googled my keywords and I'm not showing up. Our ads are not working. And I explain to them, it's all run off an algorithm now. You cannot assume that Google should automatically show your ads to them. In fact, you don't want them to because you've got ROI-based bidding, ROAS-based bidding. The algorithm is set up to get you a certain ROI, and it's supposed to only show your ads to people who are likely to convert. Not just every single person who searches for your keywords, because they aren't all people that convert. And you tell them, and then a month later, oh, Corey, our ads are not showing. And it just makes you want to pull your hair out, basically, because people just can't possibly imagine why Google wouldn't show their ad for their main keywords. And the reality is there's a lot of different people who search for your keywords. There's a lot of people with different ages, different incomes. They're searching at different times of the day, different locations. Google's going to statistically analyze the likelihood of somebody to convert on each one of these individual levels of how that person is, what hobbies they have, so on and so forth. They're also going to look at their past behavior. What websites have they visited in the past? Have they converted with other people in the past? Have they done a lot of research before they made this search? And they're going to combine who the person is and what their past behavior is, and they're going to put it together into a user profile. And then they're going to see if your ad performs well for that profile of user, or does somebody else's ad that also wants to show up for that user perform better in terms of click-through rate and conversion rate. You don't want to show up for everybody. You do want to show up as much as you can where it's profitable, but not for everybody because they all aren't profitable. People with no money, they're not profitable. People that haven't done a certain amount of research in a lot of spaces before they search for your keyword, they're not profitable. The system's doing its job, but with that said, going back to what I was saying before, a lot of people don't understand why it should have to take so long for their ads to work. They think it's like a freaking switch where I'm a magician with a magician's hat, and they turn on their ads and then boom, their bank account explodes instantly. And then, and it should be like that. And ultimately, it doesn't work like that. That's why I'm making this video explaining about ad rank. But with that said, Google doesn't know your performance for each one of these users, so it's going to go with what it knows, which is the past performance of all the other people that's been advertising for years already for those profiles of users that they know basically how those ads perform. And when little old you come in and try to advertise, they're going to give you like 1% of the action for those users that are likely to convert into a sale and just see how it works. And it'll take a long time for them to get enough data to have firm assumptions about how your ad performs, not just for each keyword, but each person who searches for each keyword before you're in the search results consistently for the people that convert. And then on top of that, by the way, when you start out as an advertiser, they actually are going to divvy out the traffic that is most likely to convert to the people they like the most, that has the best overall advertiser performance, because they want to encourage them to stay around long term because they're helping them towards their goal of making the ads better on an ongoing basis. So literally, when you start out, they actually give you the person that they know is statistically not likely to convert, doesn't have money, probably is not going to convert because they've never done any research beforehand. So therefore, they're clicking on this ad as their research. Then, people come to me and say, why isn't it converting? We've got 100 clicks and no conversions. Well, Google's giving you the remnant traffic, even though it's targeting those keywords still, the traffic within the keyword, Google statistically knows part of that keyword's traffic that's likely to convert and what's not likely to convert. You as a new advertiser with no advertiser history gets the part that's not likely to convert. And maybe a tiny bit of what is likely to convert, because their goal is to constantly test new advertisers and see if they can measure up. If they don't test new advertisers, they can't make their ad space better because the people at the top would just be fat and happy and they would never try anything. They would never try to improve. So they want to give them a little bit of sales to encourage them to stick around, but the main sales are going to the main guy because they don't want them going anywhere. You've got to know how this works. Google doesn't say they do this. This is the reality. We know it because the conversion rate on campaigns goes up the longer you run the campaigns. They'll start out super low and get higher. So there's that. And by the way, I know this sounds like ridiculous. People really hate that it has to be this complicated to make money with your ads. I mean, at the end of the day, I like that it's complicated, not because we charge clients to manage their ads. Do you really want it to be a situation like, for instance, local service ads, if you know anything about them, or Google guarantee ads, where you could pay per phone call for Google in certain markets like plumbing services, roofing services. Number one thing people bitch about in that space is, I'm not getting enough calls. What can I do to get more calls, Corey? Even though we don't manage local service ads too much anymore, we have a partner we work with that's really good, that specializes in it, that has software to help get more calls for people. Ultimately, that's the biggest problem that you're working with. So because there's no way to really differentiate yourself, mostly, there is still, but there's very little way to differentiate yourself compared to Google Ads. And then people just bitch they're not getting enough calls. Do you really, at the end of the day, if it were easy, all that's going to happen is you're going to struggle to get clicks. You want it to be super hard, at least from the standpoint of you have to know what you're doing and you got to put some damn work in to reach the top, because there is not going to be, a super good, where you're making millions of dollars in sales if there is no top that's much better than the bottom. It's just like saying if everybody was a business owner, everybody would be rich. And the government printed $1 million for everybody would be rich. There is no rich without poor. There's no $1 million producing Google Ads account until there's 10 guys underneath them that's making little to nothing. Okay? You want it this way. But for that matter, you either you watch this channel, you subscribe to it, because I give you all the information to get on to being the top one. And for that matter, it's usually the top 10 to 20% in any niche market that's making money. The rest aren't. They don't know it because they don't have their tracking set up right or whatever. Trust me on that. 70% of people don't even have conversion tracking set up, so they don't even know they're pissing their money away. So you either subscribe to this channel, which you should do anyway, to learn how this stuff works, so you can actually be good at and have a chance of becoming that top 20%, or you pay somebody to do it that knows what the hell they're doing. If you got more money than time, you hire someone like us to help you do it. If not, you study this channel, and that's it. If you're interested in having myself do your ad strategy, all you got to do is reach out to me at guaranteeppc.com, and I can have a conversation with you, not only about doing it, but what we can guarantee for you in terms of results. We also offer coaching. I do 30-minute coaching calls with people just to let them know what they're stuck on so they can get to the next level with their ads, what they need, or we sell ad templates to people. If we've worked in your niche market before, you can literally buy the winning ads and landing pages that work for your niche market that will give you the high ad rank for yourself with none of the effort it needs that it took for us to figure out the ultimate best ad and landing page sequence that works for your space. If you're interested in that, you can also reach out to me at my firm at guaranteedppc.com. We've worked in over 100 different niche markets. So if you're in a market we've ran ads in before in a different city or a different country than our client, then you could use the templates. And there's no situation where, at least if we got better numbers than you are getting right now from that template, we're going to save money figuring it all out for yourself, because we don't charge that much for the template in the grand scheme of things. So if you're interested in that, that's another way to shortcut your way to success. With that said, getting back to what I was saying here about ad rank and the three parts of ad rank that make up ad rank, the last part that's the least important now is the bid. Okay? the bid should be your last afterthought. Ultimately, you're going to have to bid a lot in the beginning just to get shown it all. A lot of competitive markets, if you don't actually have manual bidding set up, and then just what we'll literally have to do is launch our ads, make sure they're all under the keyword status saying not, that they're showing and that they're not, the bid's not too low. And then we still aren't getting impressions, we'll double the bids. And if we're still not getting impressions, we'll double the bids again and keep doing that until we're shown, because spend a ridiculous amount of money to get the process kick-started for Google to start getting some data on your ads. In the grand scheme of things, this should be very, very little, very small part of your thought. The tendency is for 95% of people that are advertising is they want to focus on how do I make my ads work better, and very little about how do we make the clicks that we're getting pay off more. They don't want to make their websites better. They don't want to make their landing pages better. They don't want to make more landing pages so they're more relevant to their users. 70% of the equation in terms of how much you make comes out of that landing page, because there's way more you can do there than on the ads themselves. Once you've got the best in the world landing page or website, you can't possibly imagine how you make it better anymore. And somebody that tells you, that knows how to make landing pages, tells you that for that matter, because a lot of people are way too overconfident about their landing pages. They just are, because they don't understand the art of creating a landing page that converts and understand consumer psychology and all the individual little micro nuances with pages that get them to work well in terms of layout, iFlow, stuff like that. But once you've done all that, now you can worry about your bid. That's like your last thing, basically. And for that matter, you need to have all the rest of it done so you can afford to spend a lot per click and still make money. And then, ultimately you could think about it as whoever can spend the most per click wins, because they're going to get the most traffic. So because that is part of the algorithm. But people focus way too much on, where's the next ad I can run, cheap cost per click that I can make money. And that is a fool's errand. How can I make my clicks convert so fucking well and get so much from a customer that I can afford to click at almost any rate anywhere and run my ads everywhere, because there's my funnel to get a click into a sale and into a very long, high value long-term customer or client is so good, I don't even really have to worry about clicks. And then at that point, it's just how, raise the cost per click so high that I've got 100% of all the clicks I can get. So that is a part of the algorithm. Now, with the bid, look at Google Keyword Planner. Google will give you the estimated cost per click for each of your keywords. They have a high end of the range and low end of the range. The high end of the range is where you're going to start when you just start advertising and you have no past advertiser history, no ad performance history. And the low end of the range is going to be what you pay if you do everything I talk about on this channel and you do it at least as good as the top guy in your space in terms of his metrics or better. And that difference in a lot of niches is literally 10x difference. You could pay $10 a click or $1 a click based upon how well of a job you do following the stuff I talk about on this channel that will put you on top in your space in terms of quality and offering a better quality experience to Google's users. Google does this because they want to make their ads better. They want to encourage their advertisers to keep pushing for more in terms of helping their users convert better and have a better experience. And that's the main way they do it. They also do it by giving them a higher quality, more likely to convert user, like I talked about before. With that said, they're going to look at your quality scores to dictate whether you're going to get the high end of the range or the low end of the range. And your quality scores, not just your quality scores in general, but benchmarked against the quality scores of your competitors. So you could have a 7 quality score across the board on average, but if your competitors all have an average of 6, well, you're going to get the low end of the range. But you're going to have to advertise for a while for Google to realize what your quality score really should be for all your keywords, because it's done at a keyword level. So you got to keep that in mind as you go through this. But your quality score as benchmarked against your competitors will dictate full credit for this 20% of the ad rank algorithm or no credit. And you have to basically, no matter how high you bid, it's not going to make a difference. Because realistically, I had a client who was a pool builder. He had somebody make his website. I think it probably was somebody that he knew that wasn't a professional web design firm. The new website looked like absolute garbage. And I told him that. I said, do not run this website. Your website results are going to go in the complete shitter if you run this website. And didn't listen to me. And went ahead with the website. Our cost per click went up from $10 a click to 20 to 30 to 40 to 50 And then all the while, our impressions were going down. Your click-through rate is no way to save your business if you do something really messed up in terms of your website and you take advice from the wrong person about what websites are better, because people make websites, and if you tell them it's worse, they're so bought into having made that website, they're not going to listen to you until they basically almost go out of business, and then they might change their mind at the last minute and let their ego be bruised because they're going to go out of business, and that's the alternative is worse. If you do something like that, the bidding is not going to help you get your ad back on top. You're not only going to get charged more per click, but your impressions are going to go down at the same time. So therefore, the bid is just an afterthought. If you want to make money on Google Ads, in other words, you got to focus on these first two. And the bidding is just the icing on the cake, essentially. How can I have my ads so good that Google just loves the absolute out of our account? And how do I get my individual ads so good as well? And hyper-targeting users, having different ads and different landing pages for each keyword and even for each gender, because we've done that sometimes so that males get an ad just for males, females just get an ad just for females, because that's going to train this part of the algorithm that looks at your ad performance for each profile of user. And sub-segmenting is the easiest way to train this part of the algorithm, honestly, because very few people want to make different ads for different users with different keywords and that kind of thing. You put the work in, you're going to do it well. And then if you create all those different ads and landing pages for different users, your overall ad performance is going to be good, and you're going to train that part of the algorithm as long as you keep your ads funded and the rest of it, like I talked about. So anyway, that's really what ad rank is, what it means, and how it applies to how you make money with Google Ads and whether you're going to make money at all. Again, to summarize this, 20% of the people that are advertising in your market, if there's 10 people cycling in and out of the top 4 ad spots in Google, which in a competitive market there usually is, 20% are going to be making all the profit, 80% are making little to nothing. It's a complete waste of time if you don't put the work in to be in the top 20%. And ideally, you should be shooting to do better than everybody else. So if you undershoot it or screw up in some way, you're still not going to be in a position where you lose. Okay? Myself, I'm going to be shooting to be twice as good as my competitors by default, and will often do it. Like, it's not that hard to beat all the competition in 90% of the markets that we're in that we're working with clients in, because the average user wants to sit on their lazy and not do anything and just expect Google to work and bitch and complain about Google and not actually do what Google's telling you that they want with this ad rank system, which is to help us figure out how to make the ads better overall for people, and not just saying my landing page is good enough. I don't know, there's nothing wrong with my landing page. The average user's tending to do, which is good for you, because if you're not that guy, you're in the top 20%. Simple. So with that said, if you haven't subscribed to this channel and you want to know those techniques to be on top, and where I go into detail on all these pieces to get the ads right, the landing pages right, you should subscribe to this channel, because all the information you're getting on this channel comes straight from the source and somebody who actively spends 40 hours a week doing ad strategy at our firm. I spend my weekends sharing what I find works. You're not going to find this on other channels. You should also check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. That has the other strategies that we're using at our firm to guarantee clients results, with the step-by-step instructions, with the screenshots. If you like the channel, you're going to like that blog as well, so you should check that out as well. With that said, I'm going to wrap it up pretty much with that. Hopefully that puts into perspective ad rank. As complicated as it may seem, it works to your advantage if you work the system and work it to your advantage. See you later.
Remember when I said ad rank was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.